when you are in, say, negotiations or conflicts or things like this, like how do you create this trust, and how do you kind of dance with systems, as Donella
Yeah,
Meadows
as
used to
Danella
say?
Meadows put it. Yeah, that's a great tie-in with the dancing.
Yeah.
I should go reread that essay, the Dancing with Systems, or I think that's the name of one of her
Yeah.
essays. And the first step is something like get the beat of the system. And I'm not going to
Hmm.
say that this is the same thing, but it feels vaguely related to like part of the sort of the first aspect of doing trust dancing is actually taking stock of what trust there is and isn't, um, and just like allowing people to have, or allowing the parts, if you're doing internal trust dancing, to have whatever trust they have or not of each other. And so like there's a sense in which, like, if somebody was dealing with this conflict about whether to go to the party or whether or whatever else, it's like I might guide them through having the part of them that wants to go to the party say to the part that wants to do the work, like, I don't trust that you're caring about uh you know uh like having fun or something. And the work
Right.
art might say, like, I don't trust that you're caring about um uh the abundance that allows us to like go have fun, have our
Hmm.
lifestyle or whatever, like in terms of doing this work. um and then kind of the next key step is respecting, like, first acknowledging, but then also just like respecting and honoring and sort of validating that distrust. It's like, oh, like, if you can't trust this about me, then like you can't trust it. Like, I'm not going to ask you to trust it about me. And part of where people get bound up in their conflicts is they have a kind of sense of like trying to get the other person to sort of to trust them. I feel like I'm jumping kind of a few steps here a little bit, but let's see.
Well, how do you, I guess,
So
how do you make it, like, I guess, like non-naive, like what's at the first part of
right,
this?
right,
How
yeah,
do, how exactly do you do that without, like you just said, look, if I don't trust you, well, then I, maybe there's a slight inclination to then also not want to work, because at something that both of us are coming at, or so, I'm trying to kind of
right, yeah, yeah.
connect
There's
the
there's
two.
a totally. So often what gets people stuck is they feel like if I trust myself about something, then you should trust me about it as
Mm,
well. Like,
mm-hmm.
I know I care about this, but you might think that I don't, right? Like,
Yep.
suppose that instead of two people, or sorry, suppose that instead of one person with this conflict about whether to go to the party or do the work, it's actually two people, right? Who
Mm-hmm.
both have this shared project and both also have this party they could go to. And one of them is leaning towards go to the party and the other is not. And suppose that for whatever reason they either have to go together or not. Like, so they have to make this decision together.
Yep.
Or suffer some other great consequence, which they could choose to suffer, right? Like, you can always choose to suffer the consequences of anything,
Right.
really.
Right.
Any option that's available to you, you can always choose to suffer those consequences, and that's actually important. It's
Wow.
like that's part of the sort of existentialist freedom, I think. Actually, is like, you could choose, instead of whatever ordeal you're currently going through, um, you could choose to die. I
Sure.
mean, that's really extreme,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like, that is always an option. Like, that's like pretty weird. And I don't think in general it's good for people to be thinking of that as their BATNA. Like, for me, my BATNA has usually felt more like run away from my entire life and reinvent myself. Like,
Right. Right. Hey,
and
I have
that's
a
not
similar
like,
feeling with you, bro.
yeah, and that's also like, I've only been at all close to that maybe like twice, when things
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
felt really overwhelming. I was like, I'm just
Sure.
gonna go to Alaska, or I'm gonna go, or gonna go up to Nunavut, or like, fuck it.
Yep. Yep.
And but like, realistically, that's not actually going to be my best option, right?
Right.
But it helps kind of get you out of the idea of, oh no, I have to, like, do you? You could also suffer the consequences of not. Those might be really bad consequences, though. Anyway, leaving that aside for a little bit, the oh, and there's also an interesting kind of footnote or something here about like what does it mean to suffer the consequences of a disagreement internally rather than finding resolution. Like, for two people, they
Mm,
can just choose to part, and sometimes that's a fine consequence. That's easy.
right.
Sometimes it's difficult, but it's life goes on after divorce, or after a company ends, or after whatever else. Anyway, so we've got these two people who either are going to go to the party together, do some work together, or suffer the consequences of fragmenting their two-ness.
Yep.
Those are
Yep.
sort of their options. And we're going to assume that the consequences are somehow sufficiently bad or sufficiently unworkable. Maybe they literally can't even get to the party as one person, or blah blah blah. So I can't do the work anyway. Blah blah blah. So either they're going to like go to the thing, or they're going to do the thing. And so the one person's leaning towards go, the other person's leaning towards work, and there, like, one thing that will make the dialogue a lot better is if both people know, which maybe they already do, but maybe they don't, and sometimes you need to say things that feel like they should go without saying. So the person who wants to go to the party might find themselves feeling like, I feel like Jane doesn't think that I care about the project. Like, what the fuck? Obviously, I care about the project.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that it's surprising the extent to which, in that moment, one of the most useful trust dance moves you can make is just to say, by the way, I really care a lot about this project.
Right. That
It's like,
it's very simple, but could have the most impact.
yeah, it's like,
Okay.
because the other person can get themselves into a moment, like, it's like, Bill
Mm-hmm.
just wants to party.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care about the project at all. Like, whatever, right? And it can be the converse, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, Bill's like, Jane, I don't trust that you like ever want to have a good time, right? And Jane is like, no, I totally want to have a good time. I'm just, you know, I'm worried about this. What, like,
Right.
but there's a way in which, like, if you respond to it, like, there's a way of responding defensively that's sort of like, I want to have a good time, but it's sort of like, and then there's another way of responding. It's like, no, like, I really do want to have a good time. Like, I care about that as well. And I also, like, I don't know how to resolve my desire for both of these things, or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, just can sort of be in the unknown together is kind of the basis for being able to resolve this stuff. As internally, it's like, you got to be with the unknown of like, what do I actually want? I don't know. If I knew, I'd be doing it. Like, if you really get that, and this is implied by a lot of the perceptual control theory stuff as well, which has a lot to say on internal conflict and so forth. It's like, if you really get that, if you knew what you wanted to do, you'd be doing it.
Right. But
You know,
I mean,
like, I
go
don't
ahead.
need to motivate myself. I don't need to like set a task, you know, motivation list to pick up this glass of water and take a sip. Like, I want to take a sip of the glass of water. I do it. Right.
Right.
And that's even true of things that are much more complex and convoluted. Like, you know, I want to do some, you know, some writing or whatever. I do it, but sometimes I don't do writing, and it's like, why? And it's like, well, it's like, I'm not clear what I want to write about, or I'm not clear why I want to write about it, or I'm worried that if I write it today, I'm not going to do this other thing. So I've got some conflict about it. But like, if I just want to do the thing, then I will literally be doing it. Like, there is no just wanting without doing.